Good evening, everybody. My name is Kathy Rigling, and I'm the education coordinator with Orange Audubon Society. And thank you for joining us for a little short webinar about how you can count birds for science with students. This program is brought to you in conjunction with the Cornell K-12 educational program, which if you haven't checked out their website, you should. They have a lot of programs. I get a lot of materials from them, and also from Orange Audubon Society. And it's our mission to promote public understanding of and interest in wildlife and the environment that supports it. So you might hear the words citizen science and community science used interchangeably. I think more people are using community science now because it more reflects who's doing the science. So anyways, what is community science? It's where people everywhere report observations of natural events, and that you're using some basic scientific protocols to make them valuable to researchers. You may be wondering, oh, are these lights? No, actually, this is a snapshot of one day eBird report submissions from a global big day. And so you can see where all the different reports came in, even out in the ocean where people were out in boats doing observations. So there's a lot of community science related to birds. So in community science, volunteers are providing data. Why? Because researchers can't be everywhere, and we can report the birds in our local area. It helps scientists put the pieces together on how populations of different things are doing. So there are a lot of citizen science or community science projects, from ants to water to stars to worms to ice watch. There's just just a tremendous amount of things that you can get involved with. But we're just going to talk about eBird tonight. So Cornell Lab of Ornithology has a certain protocol they have. So whatever project they have, it's all about identifying and observing birds or evidence of birds in the case of Nest Watch, collecting data, entering the data online, and then being able to retrieve and view the data. So that's a really important piece. After you've submitted data, you can look at it. You can look at other people's data. And it doesn't matter how young or old you are, your observations do matter. And this is a powerful piece for students because they're doing authentic science. And what's valuable about community science, if you have administrators asking you why you're taking your kids outside to look at birds, well, it's very exciting to students. It's an opportunity to actually study wild animals. It sparks their curiosity. You can teach STEM content and meet science standards. It helps the environment, it helps the birds, and it's very motivating to kids, and they're connecting to the scientific community, and it's a lot of fun. And why birds? And these are actual photos from the Cornell lab of some of the beautiful birds of the world. You might say, well, there are no birds on my campus, but once you go out there and look, you will find some birds. Some days more than others, but you will find some birds. And the more the kids start to look, the more they're going to pay attention, the more they're going to see. And that's all about observing, right? And you might wonder, well, we can identify what we see, but actually there's some really nice tools that make it possible for you to learn your local birds. And there's a lot of resources out there for you. So if you're going to conduct a bird count, here's some things you need to do before you start. Decide on where to count the birds on your campus. You want to, before you do the count, go walk around your campus, look for big trees with seeds in them, or berries or nuts or some type of fruit. That's even better. If you have a water source, whether it's a retention pond or a canal near your school, and you don't have to actually go to it, but being close by, you're going to see the birds going to it. So you want to find places that provide food, water, and shelter. And decide on a time to count. You might be limited on that, but if you're able to, the morning is definitely the best. I conducted a bird count today, and the numbers of species was double in the morning of what it was later in the day. So it really does help if you can go out in the morning. You will need to create an account on eBird, which is one of the longest running community science projects in the world. And it's very easy to use, and I'm going to walk you through it. But once you create an account, you have access to a lot of their databases. It's really great. So these are some of the projects you have access to once you create an account. There's Bird Academy, Birds of the World, Celebrate Urban Birds, eBird, Great Backyard Bird Count, which I'll do a separate program on that in February. The Macaulay Library, which has just a tremendous amount of media, not just birds, but other things, including sound recordings. Nest Watch and Project Feeder Watch. And it's real simple. You're just going to have to create a password and use your email, and it's free. So if you're going to do a bird count, you want to have something you can use to identify the birds. So Merlin is an awesome app. It's created by the Cornell Lab, and it is free. And it's been around for a while, so they've actually fine-tuned it. It's even better than it used to be. You don't have to use it though, but it's definitely great. You can use paper field guides. You might have those in your media center, or most field guides, you can get any of these. These are just some suggestions. These are the main ones for under $15, even less probably. You can get them used. I mean, the birds haven't changed. Some of their names have, but that's okay. Most of them have stayed the same. So you want to teach your students some basics of bird identification before doing the count. So there's things that we look at to try to solve the mystery of what bird we're seeing. So size, shape, color, and behavior are the main clues. So the first thing you want to think about with your students, if they see a bird and they say, I see a bird, you might have, 15, 20 students with you, and they're all saying they're seeing things. And it can get a little chaotic, but in a fun way. But ask them, well, teach them ahead of time. Is it tiny like a sparrow? Is it between a sparrow and a robin or cardinal? Is it between a cardinal and a crow? Is it the size of a crow? Is it between a crow and a goose? Is it the size of a goose? And talk to them about families of birds. And even the youngest students know most of these. They can tell a woodpecker by its shape. You might not know which kind, but you can eliminate it's a woodpecker, an owl, a raptor, bird of prey, ducks, geese, which, well, if you're in Florida, you won't see really many native geese, but you might, gulls and songbirds. And your students need to pay attention to the three main colors that they see of the bird when they see it. And pay attention to behavior. So what was the bird doing? Was it eating at a feeder? Was it swimming or wading on the ground, so on and so forth? So if you do use that Merlin app, it goes through those questions for you. You get to put it in. So that's something you could have. I'm not sure if you can put it on a tablet, but you could have your smartphone, and you can go through and do this with the students as you're looking at birds. That's one option you can do. And then if you do that, and for this example, I put in that I saw a small sparrow-sized bird, brown and black and white. And these are some of the choices it gave me. Some choices are a little bit better than others. This is, AI, it's not perfect. But the red-winged blackbird, you might say, well, that's not brown, but actually the female is. So that's one reason why that came up. And when you find the bird, you can click, this is my bird, and you've reported it. That's one way to do it. Or you can at least know that what you've seen matches with the name. Now, if you're working with younger students like preschool, kindergarten, first grade, you could simply do your bird count on Merlin, and you could, if as long as you have an account on eBird and you want to report it from Merlin, you can say save with Merlin, and that bird's been reported. but it's not as scientific as if going to eBird, because Merlin can't give you, you can't report numbers of birds. You can only report seeing a species, but it's great for younger students. If you don't use the Merlin app, use a field guide. They're pretty easy to use. Now here's a tip, plan ahead. Spend some time with your students, find what your local birds are, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Assign each student, or maybe a team of students, a bird, and they draw a picture and they write some simple facts about them and what makes them distinguished from other birds. And these are some students that I worked with last year and their version of this, becoming a bird expert, and they absolutely love doing this. And then on the day of the actual bird count, if they see that bird, they'll know it. I mean, there's the palm warbler. I know, I drew it, and this is all the description. So you might want to pay attention to what birds might be likely in your area, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. So to discover the most common birds, this is in Merlin. You're going to click on, it has a little pull down on Explore Birds, and there's a slider on the right side, and you can set it to your local birds and for the season. So right now I would do winter, and then it's going to generate a list of the most common birds. And those are the birds you might want to have your students focus on. So these are some of the ones when I did this on my phone of the common winter birds for Central Florida. And so if I was to do this with a class, these would be some of the birds I'd want to pick and have the students do their little focus bird activity. Okay, so prior to the date you're doing a count, you need to decide, are you going to use Merlin and just simply list the birds you see? Or do you want to make it a scientific bird count and use eBird? Both you need to have an eBird account to do it. To do Merlin, just to review what we just went over, you're going to go through, let me move this over here, start bird ID, and then you can go down and it's going to go through the questions. And when you find your bird, save Merlin. Now Merlin has a new feature now where you can have it record the sounds, and it can identify with about 50% accuracy if your phone is recording well and there's not a lot of outside noise. You can try to identify them with sound, but just be careful, because if something really strange, unusual, says it's rare, comes up, it's probably not correct. So that's just an option you can do. If you want to do eBird, you can download the free app. Of course, you have to have an account first. And what's the beauty of the eBird mobile app? It records your date, your time, your distance, and you can submit it right from your phone. And if you use the eBird website, you need to track your distance and your time, which is not hard to do. Now, when you're doing your bird count, you can count anything that's wild that you can identify by sight or sound. If you can't identify what it is, this is a bird I saw. There's no way. It was backlit. It wasn't making any sounds. So I didn't report it. It's okay to do that. It needs to be wild, like if there's near your campus, there's domestic chickens or something like that, they can't count those. So birding etiquette, this is really important to tell your students, because when we're counting birds, we don't want to cause them any harm. So if you're watching a bird and the bird changes its behavior, what it was doing, you're too close. You need to back away. Tell your students they need to keep low voices because they'll scare the birds. If you're on a trail, make sure they stay on the trail and not disturb the habitat. If you see a bird nest, keep distance with it. Don't play bird calls. It can stress birds out. And this is really important. So you have a big group of students, and if one group sees a bird, they'll get excited. Tell the other students as they're coming over to approach slowly, not be running, because movement will make birds fly because they're prey animals. If you're doing multiple bird counts for different classes, just do a separate checklist. That way you can stop it when you're done with the one class and then start a new one when you do the other class. Okay, I'm going to do a quick little tutorial on how to use the mobile for eBird. So here's the mobile, it's free. When you click on the app, it'll say start checklist. You just click that. Okay. You're going to choose your location. What's really nice about this is it will use GPS and you can do nearby location. If you're putting a school in, what I do in my comments, I'll put a no public access, because people can see the eBird reports and then they'll know, oh, I can't bird there because it's not public. So when you'll get a list pop up, and all you got to do is click on the left side of each bird to add how many birds. You might wonder, well, I have to look through the whole list to try to find my bird. No, there is a place where you can start typing in the name of the bird. Let me see where I have that. Right here, you just type in, if you see a goldfinch, you can just type in GOLD, it'll pop up. So that's a shortcut. So what happens when you type in, this screen will show, and if you notice, if you have Merlin downloaded, it'll be connected right there. And if you want to double check that it's the right bird, like, oh, are those really wood ducks? You can click on Merlin, it'll take you there, which is really nice. So again, easy way to find the bird, type in the first few letters. Now, if it comes up with an R, that means it's rare for the location. It might be because of time of year. Maybe that bird is a summer bird and it's showing up now, and it's okay if it's a rare bird. You want to report that, but you want to be really sure you're seeing what you're seeing. Okay. So these were some snow geese I saw, and they are rare for our area, for Central Florida, but they do show up. So what you do, if you're confident, then you put a description in the comments of what you saw. If you're able to get a photo, that's even better, but we can't always get photos, so that's okay too. Birds are hard to photograph. So here, this was a bird called a yellow-breasted chat, which is rare, not usually seen. And so I just put a little description. Don't worry if you don't know a whole lot, just describe it the best you can. When you finish, you're going to review your list. You make sure, because sometimes my fingers, they're kind of wider than the keypad, and I might accidentally hit something I didn't mean to, and you can delete it as you go through. You say, oh, I didn't see a penguin, and you can delete that so it's accurate. And once you reviewed it, if you haven't put a location, it's going to ask you to select one, so be sure you do that. You put how many, like you total up your students and include yourself. It automatically will populate how many minutes you spent, how many miles you went. Then you hit continue, and then you hit submit, and it's done. It's been sent to the Cornell lab and it'll be part of their data. Now, if that was too quick for you, there's a free 1-hour class, and it's on the Cornell website, the Bird Academy, but this is the website, and this will be recorded so you can go back and stop it, and you can go here and it'll tell you all about eBird, and also how you can, if you have older students and you want to look at data for your area, like how many, hummingbirds are found in our area, you can do that. There's a lot of, but this class will teach you how to do that. Well, thank you for participating. And if you would like to receive a certificate of participation, email me. If you're watching this on video from our YouTube channel, you will need to just write me like 3 sentences describing something you learned, how this is useful to you, any questions you have. That way I just can document that you actually did. And you would email to education@orangeaudubonfl.org. So I am going to stop the recording. Thank you so much for participating.